More drama at the MURDAUGH trial. With the jury out of the room, the defense raising issue with this GoFundMe page for Shelley Smith, quote, for her bravery. The caregiver who worked for the MURDAUGH family testified earlier this week.
The very first donation made on this GoFundMe page, which was made shortly after it first went up last night, was made by attorney Mark Tinsley.
Mark Tinsley is the attorney behind a civil suit that was trying to force Alec Murdaugh to turn over detailed financial records. The defense asking to exclude his testimony before he took the stand.
What's improper about what he did?
About what Mr. Tinsley did?
Yes.
He made a financial payment to a witness in the middle of a trial that he has a financial interest in the outcome of.
Tinsley, in front of the jury, laying out that he was trying to make Murdaugh personally pay after his son Paul, under the influence, crashed a boat, killing Mallory Beach.
Did you accept that response that he was, quote, broke, unquote?
No, I didn't believe it at all.
Private home care.
I'm sorry?
Private home care, caregiver.
How did you get into that?
My aunt.
And was she in that business?
Yes, she's an LPN. Yes.
An LPN?
Yes.
Licensed practical nurse?
Yes.
And when did you get in the home care business?
Probably about 10 or 12 years ago.
Right. Now, prior to that, had you already started with the school?
Yes, I'm still at the school also.
Okay. Tell them when you started with the school.
It's school in 1995. That's correct, 1995.
And what school did you start with?
At North District Middle School in Warrenville, South Carolina.
North Central Middle, Varnville?
North District Middle School.
North.
Yes.
What did you do for them?
Food service.
And how long did you do that at that school?
I've been there for 19 years at North District Middle School.
After that, did you change locations?
6 years later, I went to Wade Hampton High School.
Okay. And for those of us that don't know, where is that?
Warrenville, South Carolina.
And you said your aunt got you a business. Were you working with one family at a time, or did you have?
Different families at a time.
Okay.
Different families.
And how long would you stay with the family once you became their caregiver?
It all depends on how long if they're deceased, I will move on to another family.
So is it fair to say you'd stay with the family until the person passed on?
Passed on, yes, correct.
And then how'd you get other jobs as far in that caregiving profession?
My aunt always called me and said there's a job, and she let me put me on that job.
Okay. So to give the jury an idea before we get to this case, your schedule, can you tell this jury, Ms. Smith, how it came about that you started working for the Murdaugh?
It was a job opening. I think one of the caregivers mentioned it to me, and I said, yes, I'd be interested in going. And now that's how it started.
Okay. And one of the caregivers mentioned your name. Do you know who that was?
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay.
It's Barbi Mixon.
Ms. Barbara Mixon?
Yes, sir.
So there's an opening and your name got brought up?
Yes.
And can you tell these folks when that was? When did you start working for the Murdaugh family?
It was October of 2019.
And what was your role as a caregiver specifically for the Murdaugh?
Miss Libby, taking care of Miss Libby. Miss Libby.
Okay. Was Mr. Randolph, I knew him as Solicitor Randolph Murdaugh, but was Mr. Randolph, was he there living when you started there?
Yes, he has, yes.
And then that's what we've referred to as Almeida?
Yes, Almeida's, yes.
What was your primary job as the caregiver? Were you there to take care of the solicitor or Mr. Randolph, or was your primary job for Miss Libby?
Miss Libby.
Okay. Did you also ever tend to Mr. Randolph's?
Yeah, every now and then. Mm-hmm.
But your main focus was Miss Libby?
Miss Libby, yes.
From October 19th up to June 21st, Ms. Smith, and I want to be very delicate in this question. I think it's something that affects everybody in the world, this jury there, but did Miss Libby's condition get worse?
Yes.
And she's suffering from something that affects all of our families, it's Alzheimer's?
Yes.
And that got worse from the time you started until June?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Well, in June of 2021, how would you describe Miss Libby's condition?
Alzheimer's, couldn't remember anything at times.
In your opinion, as her caregiver, was she aware of what was going on around her?
No.
May, June of 21, tell these folks what your school schedule was and then your work schedule with the Murdaughs.
Okay. My school schedule was 7:20, I would leave home, be to school at 8 o'clock, and I leave there at 1:45. Go home, make my deposit at the bank, go home, rest, come back to work at 7:45. Had to be there at 8 p.m. that night. I would stay all night and leave 7:45 the next morning, leave there and go back to the school.
So was that the shift you were working for the Murdaughs
Yes,
primarily?
yes,
An 8 p.m. to 8 a.m.
yes.
shift? When did you sleep after you went to school?
Took little cat naps every now and then.
But would you go home after you made your deposit?
Yes,
You would rest?
yeah, that's for a couple of hours.
And then did you have a change of clothes at the Murdaughs for when you went straight to school the next morning?
Yes.
Well, ma'am, I'd like to take you to June 7th of 2021. If you'll go back there, if we can take them back in your mind and take this jury back there right now, please, ma'am. Were you working as a caregiver for Miss Libby Murdaugh on June 7th of 2021?
Yes.
Now, had Mr. Randolph, again, I know Ms. Solicitor, but had Mr. Randolph's condition worsened? Had he gotten, was he in the hospital, was he there when you got there on June 7th?
No, he was not.
Do you know where he was?
He was in the hospital.
What time did you get to the Murdaugh's, Miss Libby's residence and Mr. Randolph's residence on June 7th of 2021?
7:45.
Okay. And that's the time you were there?
Yes.
And you're never late, are you?
No.
And is somebody waiting to leave for you to get there?
Yes.
Okay. And this night, who was there?
It was Miss Barbara Mixon, I'm thinking. Can't remember. I think it was Miss Barbara.
Libby, when you got there on June 7th of 2021, shortly before 8, where was Miss Libby?
In the bed.
And as a professional caregiver, and this was what time of night?
8 o'clock that night.
If one of your patients that you're taking care of is in the bed resting, do you like to disturb them?
No.
If they're sleeping, do you want to wake them up?
No.
So when you got there, was Miss Libby in bed?
She was in bed, yes.
And do you get briefed by Miss Mixon on what happened during the day, or y'all exchange, hey,
Just come in with, change or if she need to be changed or whatever like that.
make sure that
She's
dry?
She's dry. It's okay, yes.
And so where's your desk, or what's your position when you're there, when you're in her room, Miss Libby's room?
Yes.
Okay. Where do you sit when you're in the room? I mean, what do you do to take care of her?
In the recliner. Have a recliner. Sit there.
And is there a TV in the room?
Yes.
And is the TV usually on when you're there with Miss Libby in the evening, or
Yes.
okay. Was it on this night?
It was on, yes.
And do you remember what y'all were watching? Or what was on TV?
American Says, a game show.
Say it again?
American Says, the game show.
Okay. How long has that been on?
It's stays on. It repeats. It's afterwards repeats itself.
What channel is that on?
The Game Network show. Channel, excuse me.
At some point on the evening of June 7th of 2021, did you see Alex Murdaugh?
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember what time it was? Approximately.
The game show was on, so it had to have been 8 o'clock, 8:30, 9:30, somewhere up in there.
8:39, 9:30?
It was somewhere up in there.
Okay. Is it fair to say it was later in the evening?
It was late in the evening, yes.
Okay. And you had worked that schedule for that 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. shift for how long?
2 years.
2 years.
2 years.
Was it unusual to see Alex Murdaugh at that residence that time of night?
Yes, on my shift, yes.
And that's the only shift you'd work?
Yes,
So the 8 p.m. to the 8 a.m. shift, it was unusual to see Alex Murdaugh there visiting, correct?
correct, yes. He called the house and told me he was outside.
He called the house.
Yes,
What phone did he call? It's a terrible question. I mean, was it your phone, the house phone?
the
I'm
house
not-
phone, the house phone.
And when you answered the house phone, what did he say?
He was outside. They let him in.
He was at the house,
Yes,
right outside the house,
yes,
and he called you,
yes,
and he said, "Let me in."
yes.
And after he called you, how long did it take you to go open the door to let him in?
About 5 minutes.
So he was right there at the house.
Yes,
You let him in?
of course, yes.
Okay. Do you remember what he was wearing?
Shorts
Okay.
and a t-shirt.
Do you remember what kind of shoes he had on?
Those cloth shoes, like Sperry's, that type of material. Like Sperry's, that type of material, cloth shoes.
Cloth shoes?
Yeah, like cloth, to me, yes.
And you said something called Spears?
Something like Sperry's, that, that kind of, but it was cloth.
Okay.
That kind, yeah.
Wasn't boots?
No, it wasn't boots, no.
And are you familiar with tennis shoes?
Yes.
Was it tennis shoes?
No, it wasn't tennis shoes.
Cloth, Sperry type shoes?
Yes.
Did he have any socks on?
No, no.
Tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury, could you describe Alex Murdaugh's demeanor on June 7th when you were there with him and his mother Libby?
He just
How was he
came,
acting?
like, fidgety, this came in,
Speak up, please. ma'am.
fidgety, I'm thinking, it's normal.
What did you say, man?
Like he was fidgety, like, yeah,
Fidgety.
yes.
Is that what you're saying? Okay. And did he tell you why he was there?
No, he just came to see his mother.
Did he talk to his mother?
But she was asleep, yes.
She was asleep. Okay. And what did he do? What did Alex Murdaugh do when his mother was asleep?
He came and sat on the bed, because we was asking me what I was watching. I said American Says, I said the game show.
Did he say anything to his mother?
We said, hey, Mom, how you doing? Just came to check up on you, yeah.
Did he say why he'd come to check up on her?
Because Daddy was in the hospital, call him Hansel, yeah, was in the hospital.
How long did he stay in the room with y'all? When I say y'all, for the record, you and Miss Libby, I apologize.
About 15 to 20 minutes, 20 minutes.
Was he moving around the room?
No, he was laying on the bed,
Did he have his phone with him?
yes.
Was he looking at his phone?
Yes, he was on his phone, yes.
I'm sorry, ma'am. What?
Yes.
After that initial conversation, you said he said, "I'm here." Did he have any other attempt to have any other conversation with Miss Libby?
No,
Did he hold your hand out? Did he ever hold her hand?
yes, he did hold her.
He hold her?
Yeah,
Did
she
you
was
talk
in-
to her?
Yeah, she was in the bed, yeah. Yes, he
And
did.
her condition then was what?
She was, sleep off and on, sleep.
How long did he stay there? That's okay.
20 minutes, about 20 minutes.
"20 minutes.
About 20 minutes.
What happened after that?
He left.
Your shift ended when?
8 o'clock the next morning.
At some point after that, did you get a call from Miss Mixon?
Yes,
Did you learn what had happened at Moselle?
yes.
At some point after that, did you get a call from a family member? I really don't know who it was, but
Yes, yes,
do you remember who it was?
yes.
Okay, who was it?
This is Randy,
Randy Murdaugh.
Randy Murdoch, yes,
Alex Murdaugh's brother.
yes.
And as a result of that, were you expecting people to come over after that?
No,
After that phone call, were you expecting people to come spend the night that
Yes.
night? Okay. Who? Who was gonna come over?
Randy told me, John Marvin, Buster and his girlfriend, and Alex.
John Marvin, Buster and his girlfriend, and Alex.
Yes,
Okay. And did you, in fact, see them later on that night? Or that morning, the next morning, I'm sorry. Did they come to Alameda after you got a call from Mr. Randy saying they were coming? Did they come?
yeah, they came, yes.
And at some point later on that morning, did you see Alex Murdaugh again? Did you see him again that morning?
No,
Did he ever come looking for glasses?
that morning, that night, he was in there. He came with glasses. He said he couldn't sleep.
And Mr. Randolph, or Solicitor Randolph, died shortly, a couple of days after that?
Yes,
Now, you were working the 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. shift. Were you asked to work more after this to get the family through this? Were you
Yes.
asked to help more at the house?
yes,
And were you happy to do that?
of course.
And do you remember the day of Mr. Solicitor, I'm going to call him Solicitor, that's the way I know him, Solicitor Randolph's funeral?
Yes,
And I've been reading through all this stuff here. What's a repast?
a repast is when everybody come back after the funeral and eat.
Everybody comes back and eats?
Yes.
Well, after the funeral, did people come to Alameda, sort of like a visitation after a funeral?
Yes,
Okay. Did folks come over there then?
yes,
And was the family there then?
yes.
And during this repast, visitation, where were you? And I said, what was your job during that, or what were you doing during the visitation?
I was in the room with Miss Libby, just back and forth.
And sometime that afternoon, did you see Alex Murdaugh?
Yes,
Okay. Tell the jury about that, please.
he came in the room, you know,
You'd speak up, please, ma'am.
he came in the room and speak that, you know, spoke like he always do.
And what did he tell you?
That he was sitting at the house. He was at the house.
Say it again.
He was at the house.
And I'm not 100% following. He was telling you or saying to you that he was at the house? When?
The night of the murders.
The night of the murders.
Yes.
What was he telling you about that he was at the house the night of the murders?
That he'd been there 30 to 40 minutes.
Was he telling you that? Did he ask you anything about that when he was talking to you?
Yes.
Did he indicate to you what he wanted you to do with that information?
No, no. no,
What
sir.
did he say?
He just said that he was at the house. The 30 to 40 minutes, I said.
You said what? Was he there 30 or 40 minutes that night?
Not to my recall.
Why are you crying, Ms. Smith?
Because they're a good family, and I love working there. And I'm sorry all this happened. They're good people, you know.
He wasn't there no 30 or 40 minutes, was he?
No, no.
Can't leave the witness.
Did that conversation upset you?
Somewhat.
You upset right now?
Yes,
Did you call anybody about it?
my brother.
You called your brother after that conversation with Alex.
Yes.
to tell him about that conversation?
Yes.
And just to be clear, what was the statement he said about how long he was here?
30 to 40 minutes.
But his phrase was, I was here, or you know I was.
I was here 30 to 40 minutes.
Not to pry, but I can't help it sometimes. What else was going on in your life right there?
Just working hours and hours.
You're whispering. I can't understand what you're saying.
When you gonna get married?
I was planning on getting married. I was planning on to.
And had Alex Murdaugh mentioned anything to you about your upcoming nuptials?
Yes.
And when was that?
Day afterwards, I'm thinking.
The day after this?
I'm thinking it was,
After
yes.
the conversation
Yes.
you just said? Where were you?
At Miss Libby, at the house.
And what did he say about your marriage, your upcoming potential marriage?
I heard you was getting married. I said yes. He said if I could, just let me know because I know wedding's gonna be expensive. I said, well, thank you.
He offered to help?
Yes, he offered. That's the type of person, a good person.
And have you ever mentioned the wedding to you before?
No. Mm-mm.
Did you mention that to him before?
No.
Did he have a conversation, anything else about your job? Were you working at the school?
Yes, at the school. Yes.
Did Mr. Murdaugh mention to you about your school and your position there?
Yes.
Tell him what he said, please.
He said that, if you need a position at school, my good friend is there. I said, yeah, I know. Worked at the school, the principal.
I believe you testified, did you help out more than just your regular shift the rest of this week?
Yes.
That week after
Yes.
the murders and Solicitor Murdaugh's death? Were you working full-time then, trying to help?
Yes.
Was school out then?
No.
So were you still going to school and helping?
Yes.
After Mr. Randolph's funeral, did you have an occasion to see Alex Murdaugh early one morning?
Yes.
Do you know how long it was, how many days after the funeral of Mr. Murdaugh?
3 days, I think, 3 days.
Can you tell the ladies and gentlemen of this jury what time it was in the morning that you saw Alex Murdaugh?
6:30 that morning.
Say that again.
6:30 that morning.
And that had been a part of your regular shift, right? 8 to 8 a.m.
Yes.
And did he call you and tell you he was coming?
No.
You didn't? Well, had he called you on June 7th and told
Yes.
you he was coming?
Yes.
And he was right outside the house?
Yes.
And this morning at 6:30, he did not call you?
No.
How did you know he was on the premises?
He knocked by the bedroom, yeah, the window.
Knocked.
Yes, on the wall.
Well, did you hear him say anything after that?
He said, I'm outside.
Say it again?
I'm outside.
Had he ever been there at 6:30 in the morning before that, while you were working there?
No, sir.
Never.
No.
And tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury what you observed that morning when you saw Alex Murdaugh.
He came in the white truck, came in the white truck.
Well, there's still funeral stuff's not in the World Road. There's still funeral equipment in the yard.
Yes.
Like what?
The tent was still there and the big old building, they put the food in, had out there. Yeah.
Like a food truck?
Yeah, food truck, yes, the camping.
And was that blocking your view some?
Yes, block my view, yes.
So when you saw Alex Murdaugh this morning at 6:30, what did he do after he knocked on the door? Did you let him in?
Yes,
Then what did he do?
came inside.
And was Miss Libby sleeping?
Yes, she was still asleep.
Okay. Did he go check on Miss Libby?
No, he didn't came in.
He didn't go check on her?
I can't remember.
Well, what did he do then?
He came inside.
Okay. And did he have anything, or was he holding anything?
He had a blue something in his hand.
Say that one more
A
time.
blue something in his hand, something blue.
A blue something in his hand. And can you show me how he was holding it?
Like this.
Is it all right if I touch it?
Yeah, this one.
How was he doing it?
Like this.
Holding something like this?
Yes.
And what did it look like?
Like a blue tart, like a tart.
Blue?
Blue.
Okay. Was it vinyl?
It's like a tart that you put on a car, you keep your car covered up. I don't know.
Big thing.
Yeah, blue. Yeah.
And was he holding it like this?
It was holding like this.
Could you tell if there was anything in it, or do you know?
No, I couldn't tell.
But not holding like this?
Mm-hmm.
Did he say anything when he walked in?
No.
Okay. What did he do when he walked in?
Went upstairs.
You testified Mr. Murdaugh came in your Alameda residence that morning. This is States 223. Do you recognize that?
Yes.
What is that?
Upstairs, going upstairs.
And is that where he went, Alex Murdaugh, that morning,
Yes.
carrying some blue thing? And this may be duplicate. If it is, I'm sorry. That's 222. Same stairs, same house?
Yes.
States 413. What is this?
That's the bedroom,
Okay. Where in Alameda is this bedroom? First floor, second floor?
first floor.
Is this where Miss Libby stayed?
No.
And 412? Is that the same?
Yes, same bedroom, yes.
Was marked 411. Don't call out the answer. This is States 411 for identification at this point. Do you see the blue object in the center?
Yes.
Does that appear to look like the object you've described?
Yes.
You saying yes?
Yes.
Is it blue?
It's blue.
Is it vinyl?
Yes.
That appears to be the same thing you saw the defendant holding this early morning hours when he came in the house. Is that correct?
It looks so, yes.
You know, this is States 411 we'd offer at this point.
No objection.
Is that admitted?
Let me just, I don't know how to ask it except to ask it. Did you ever see that blue thing unfolded when you were that morning, or you saw him carrying it?
It was unfolded
Okay, where'd you see it?
in the bedroom,
And where in the bedroom?
on the chair.
And again, I'm not clear. Was that in one of these pictures we showed you? What chair? Did they disappear? Oh, I'm sorry. Did you you end up leaving at some point that day, right?
Yes.
When you came back the next day, was that there?
No, it
It
wasn't.
was gone.
Yes, it was gone.
And did you see Alex Murdaugh leave after he went upstairs? Do you know what he did upstairs?
No, no.
Did you actually see him leave the house after he went upstairs?
Yes.
And where did he go?
Oh, I don't know. He just left outside and left.
Okay. Did he say, "Hey, I'm leaving"?
Yes, he said, I'm going, yes.
Okay. And at that point, what did you think? Did you think he'd gone?
I thought he left, yes.
Okay. Did you see him after that?
Yes.
Okay. Tell them where, please.
He came
That
back.
morning.
He came back to the house.
And how do you know that?
Because the blind was open, I seen him came through the driveway.
And what did you see him? Was he walking? Was he driving? When you saw him in the driveway?
He was driving the truck,
And I'm sorry, Ms. Smith, if I'm not, what truck was he driving?
the white truck.
And whose white truck was that?
I'm thinking it was Mr. Randall. I thought it was his truck. He had the white truck also.
He had a white truck also?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So when you saw, you testified Mr. Murdaugh coming back in a white truck, that was Mr. Randolph's truck?
Mm-hmm.
Objection, Your Honor.
leave?
Whose truck was it?
I don't know.
Ma'am, you must use words as opposed to, or because we need to know exactly what you're saying. Say yes or no if you can.
Whose truck did you think it was?
I thought it was Mr. Randolph's truck.
And were there four-wheelers or ATVs out on that property?
Yes,
Okay. What, if anything, had you observed about a four-wheeler that morning?
it was at the house,
Where had it been previously?
at the smokehouse,
When did it get moved?
the same day of that, the same morning.
See Mr. Murdaugh leave. When you saw him leave the house and you thought he was gone, you know where he went?
No,
And when he came back in this white truck, what did he do?
he got another truck,
How long was he gone?
probably about 10 minutes or 15 minutes, thinking.
And then you say this other truck. What truck are you talking about?
It was a black truck.
Had you not seen that before?
No,
Why not?
because the food truck, the catering thing was still out there in the way, so I couldn't see it.
So that blocked your view.
It's blocked my view, yes.
So what vehicle did Mr. Murdaugh leave after he came back in the white truck? What color truck?
It was a black truck. Black.
Do you know whose that was?
No,
That morning, this morning when you first saw him at 6:30, did you observe anything about his face? Any on his face?
they had like a little cut, a little cut or something,
And ma'am, I apologize, a little what cut?
like a little bruise or something.
Where was it?
It's like it was above his forehead,
Okay. I won't ask you to touch me, but can you touch yourself to show where?
right here, something right there.
Did it look fresh?
This looked like a cut, not, I wouldn't say fresh, but it looked.
Was there a video system in the house for either Solicitor Murdaugh or Miss Libby Murdaugh?
Yes,
Can you tell them about that? Where was that? What was that?
it was in the Miss Libby's bedroom.
And how was that activated or operated? It's better. Do you know?
No,
Was it on all the time or not?
yes,
And what color would it be if it was on? Was there a marker or a red and black or red and green?
those circles, yes,
And would there be times when that wasn't on?
yes,
And do you know who controlled it?
no,
I'll show you what's marked 410. Do you recognize this?
yes,
Okay. And does it relate to what we're talking about this morning as far as your location?
yes,
Now, you mentioned there was a four-wheeler that had been moved at some point in time. That four-wheeler had a flat tire, didn't it?
yes, it did.
Okay, was it a front tire, back tire?
I think it was a back tire,
And it was moved up close to the house,
yes,
far as you know, so the tire could be repaired,
yes, it was moved from the smokehouse to the regular house, yes,
with a flat tire.
yes, with a flat tire,
Funeral. And you had a conversation with Alec, and he's talking to you about how long he was over at the house on the night of June the 7th, right?
yes,
And he said he was there 30 to 40 minutes.
yes,
And you said, no, I don't think it was that long.
yes,
And then the next day, I think you said, or day after, well, the following day, or I guess that would have been Monday, you had another conversation with him where you just brought up back that you were going to get married. I think you said that was a different day, right?
yes,
And he was just being nice, wasn't he?
yes,
I think you used the word good person.
a good person, yes.
Who were you referring to when you testified in response to the question by Mr. Meadows that someone's a good person?
Mr. Alex Murdaugh.
Okay. Now, he came over on the night of June the 7th, and you said it was somewhere between 8:30 and 9:30 in the evening,
Yes,
and that's just your best estimate of when he got there, is that right?
yes,
And I think you testified that he was there, in your estimation, 15 to 20 minutes, 30 in the evening,
yes,
and that's just your best estimate of when he got there, is that right?
yes,
And I think you testified that he was there, in your estimation, 15 to 20 minutes?
yes,
Now, when you said 15 to 20 minutes, are you talking about 15 to 20 minutes in the room with Ms. Libby, or on the property the whole time?
no, probably the whole time, thank you.
Okay, well, now, you said it took you about 5 minutes to let him in, is that right?
Yes,
So, are you including the 5 minutes it took him to let him in your 15 to 20, or could he have been on the property 25 minutes?
20 minutes, the only thing is
No.
the whole time, so.
And you would agree that Alec Murdaugh would visit his parents frequently, right?
Yes,
And he would always come over more so than any other sibling, is that right?
yes,
And you would agree that it was not out of the ordinary for Alec to come at night, correct?
yes,
You would agree with that, right?
no,
So you don't agree that is, so was it out of the ordinary for him to come at night?
yes, on my shift, yes,
Well, do you recall being interviewed, a telephone interview on June 17th, 2021 with Agent Joe Albiado? You remember that?
yes,
And do you remember telling him that it was not out of the ordinary for Alec to come at night?
yes, it's been long, and I couldn't remember, it's been a year now, so I can't really remember.
I mean, is it possible that you told him that?
Yes,
And here today, you said, as I have in my notes, that when he came over that he was acting kind of fidgety, yet normal. I believe that's what you said. Is his normal behavior kind of fidgety?
yes,
He's just kind of a fidgety person, right?
yes.
So it wasn't the first time you'd seen him being kind of fidgety, right?
But he always come different times, so I can't,
But his demeanor was normal for Alec the night that he came over on June the 7th, wasn't it?
I'll say yes,
Okay. Now, you mentioned the clothes that he was wearing, and he came in and he sat on his mom's bed,
yes.
lay down next to her,
Later,
and held her hand. Is
He
that
walked
right?
in and hold her hand and spoke to her, then went on the bed and lay down.
And lay down.
Not lay down, but sit up.
And when he got up off the bed, was the bed soiled in any way? Was it wet?
I can't recall, but I didn't touch it.
Okay. What did Alec Murdaugh have blood on his clothes?
No. I didn't
He had blood on his shoes.
No,
He had blood on his hair.
no,
Did he leave blood in his mom's bedroom?
no,
According to the records that we've been provided in this case, you were interviewed by SLED on June 16th. Do you remember that
Yes.
interview?
yes,
And I think in that interview, you told SLED that he had been there 30 to 35 minutes. Do you remember telling him that?
I think it's, yes,
Okay. And then you were interviewed again by telephone on June 17th. Do you remember that follow-up call? Do you remember having a short phone call on the 17th?
a phone call.
Okay. Well, whether it's one interview or two interviews, you never told anybody at SLED in June, in these interviews, one or two, anything about Alec coming in with a blue tarp, is that right?
Right.
You didn't say anything about a blue tarp until sometime in September, is that right?
Yes.
And you initially mentioned something about Alec coming over with a tarp. The first time you mentioned it was to Officer Joseph Dingle of the Allendale Police Department when he was working a wreck. Do you remember that? Mm-hmm. Is that yes?
Yes.
Okay. And you had been in the automobile accident, and Officer Dingle was working the wreck and I guess filling out an incident report, and you were having a conversation with him.
Yes.
And in that conversation with Officer Dingle, didn't you tell Officer Dingle that on the night of the murders that Alec came over with a blue tarp that looked like it had a gun in it?
No, I saw him like he was holding something.
So you didn't say,
I didn't say specific was a gun. I said he was holding something.
so you didn't tell Officer Dingle that he came over and you couldn't tell, but stated it looked like a rifle?
No, I said it was like he was holding something. I did not say it was a rifle.
Okay. And if Officer Dingle wrote a report up saying that, he was just incorrect?
Yes.
Okay. And then after you had this conversation with Officer Dingle, then you were contacted by SLED agents, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they asked you to go down to their offices, and that's where you were interviewed in September, right?
Yes.
And in that interview, you told them about a blue tarp that you'd put over your car just like this, right? Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you didn't tell them because it's not true that there was anything wrapped up in here to look like a rifle.
Right.
Okay. And since that day of the interview at the Low Country SLED office, have you had any additional interviews with SLED agents other than getting ready for trial this week, last week?
Yes.
How many additional interviews?
2 or 3.
And in each of those interviews, did you reiterate to SLED that it was a blue tarp and not a rain jacket that you saw Alec Murdaugh walking into the house with?
Yes.
Is there any doubt in your mind it was a blue tarp like this and not a rain jacket?
And it was balled up as a blue tarp.
Because you saw it laying on Ms. Libby's retirement rocking chair, right?
Yes. Yes.
Just one more point. When Alec Murdaugh came over on that early morning, I guess it was Wednesday, you testified. Were you in Ms. Libby's room?
Yes.
And you can't see the comings and goings out of the driveway from Ms. Libby's bedroom, can you?
Mm-hmm.
You can?
No.
Okay. Thank you, Your Honor. That's all the questions I have.
Redirect.